Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the Warrior franchise 14-inch narrow. You can see there, fit comparison compared to the Warrior Alfa QX Pro in size 14. So that's the reason I got these in 14, so I can compare them to a franchise in terms of how they fit. I couldn't find a franchise in regular or wide because this is, again, all I could find for my friends. So thank you to Chris for lending me these, and so I could do this comparison. So we're going to put these on first. Now, first and foremost, these have been used for 2 years and are extremely broken in. As you can see how these are permanently bent. And with that said, they're kind of uncomfortable because they're bent that way and because I would normally take a 15. But when we go on to fit, the narrow franchise is tighter fitting overall than the Alphas are. But I mean specifically on like the glove itself, which is the backhand here. So, but the fingers are not. The one area where the Alfa QX Pros, and the Alfa QX as well, has tighter areas is the fingers themselves, whereas the franchise feel like you're basically in little boxes. So it feels like your fingers like are inside a cardboard box almost. The QX feels like you're in something made for your fingers to go in. So it's much softer and it's much more mobile. And the other thing for like length, for this I can really tell, as you can see my fingers right at the end. My fingers right at the end of the QX too, the QX Pros here. But the difference being, because this is a softer material, it feels like it can be a larger glove because it moves more with your hand. And that's same with the inside. So there's no real liner on the top of these fingers, and it makes it pretty uncomfortable, and it feels like you're touching the outside of the padding, and that's it. Whereas you can see it still has the liner, but there's always liner going on the inside of the fingers here, and they're much more soft as well on the backhand. The backhand on this is still, like, the liner is pretty good, but while the Alfa QX is like a bit thicker than, wider fitting and looser fitting than the franchise narrow, because it has the softer feel to it, it feels almost a little bit bigger than it does because it can still push out more and stretch with your hand. Whereas this glove feels like that's the glove and that's it, and the boundaries don't expand at all. So so the width wise of the normal Alfa is definitely a little bit bigger feeling than on a narrow franchise. The cuffs, as you can see where they open up, are a bit tighter on the Alfa compared to the franchise, but that's just more of how the cuff design is. This one is much less flared than the franchise is, and as you can see, it's much more flared with this hybrid AxiFlex cuff. But it's like the rest of the fit of this, like the palm area and everything, is kind of similar. It's more loose in the Alfa again than it is. But again, these are the narrow franchises. So I'm not sure what a regular franchise would be, but if you've ever tried on a regular and find it too loose or too tight, I would say, then these would be too tight for you. Because these are a narrow and they're slightly bigger than a narrow. So it's just basically the only way I can compare for that. Now we're going to go on to the QRL and the Alphas. Now both of these are 15s. As you can see, 15, sorry about that, and 15. Now, the Alphas are a 4-roll style glove, but it's a tapered 4-roll. Whereas the QRLs are anatomical fitting. And what I mean by taper 4-roll is it goes tighter and it gets bigger. This type of 4-roll isn't really tapered. It's boxy here and it's kind of boxy here. The only reason this isn't super boxy is because it's a narrow fitting glove. So if this was the normal size, it would just be boxy all around. And again, the one big difference between an old franchise and one of these is that like the fingers are softer and move with you. So there's like padding on the inside and just more comfort that feels like it will stretch with your hand more, where this feels like you're always touching the limits of the glove. Now, these two gloves, the QRL Pro and the Alfa, fit completely different. The only part that's pretty close is the thumb right here and here, because it's just how it's sewn on. It's pretty similar, and as well as the flex thumb. And the fingers are almost like they're pretty close in terms of tightness. I would say the QRL is a bit tighter on the fingers than the Alfa is, and then everything else on the Alfa is bigger. So the Alfa does really taper out, and not as much at the top as the franchise does, but compared to the QRL, as you can see, much more. Again, this has the AxiFlex cuff, so that explains that. So when I push my hand right to the end inside of the glove, like so when it's right along there, it feels like I have about that much of space between for the Alfa glove, and then obviously it gets more up here. But compared to the QRL, which when you push it right on the inside, is like, it feels like it's right up on the edge or very, very close to it. And I think you should be able to see this by looking at them, of how much tighter fitting and more anatomical the QRL is. And that's not to say that Alfa's bad or the QRL is better. It's all personal preference. Again, the cuffs are much more snug and tighter fitting on the QRL. It does feel like there's more of the glove around my cuff or around my wrist. As you can see how it kind of opens up on the outside here. And that's kind of how like a tapered glove works compared to an anatomical glove. Now, just to do a quick little test of like a shake and see how the difference in fit, I'm gonna just shake my hands without my fingers holding into the glove and see what one comes off first. So I have to shake much harder for the QRL for it to slide off before the Alfa. And again, it's an anatomical glove compared to a more 4-roll traditional and tapered fit. Again, the fingers are the closest part in terms of tightness compared to the QRL, but it does feel a little bit bigger in my opinion, but that's more just because of how this is bigger. It's not quite as tight. But again, tapered fit, anatomical, or tighter fitting to the hand. But that about sums it up for this. Hopefully that answered some fit questions. If you have any more, please comment below and ask them here, ask them wherever you see this on Reddit or Twitter or Mod Squad. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I hate to do this, but it helps me get more things like these gloves so I can comment, make videos like this. Please subscribe to me on YouTube. The link will be at the end of this video and in the description. Follow me on Twitter, also in the description at the end, and on Instagram. It just, again, helps me to do all this. But thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.